Hey everybody in DIY Sheep Crafts, it is Amika here, and I've noticed that a lot of you have had a lot of fun tanning your own sheepskins at home, whether using my tutorial or not. And I know Terry was just in here live because her ewe Caramel just had twin ewe lambs, so that's really fun. But I wanted to talk to you about sheepskin tanning because there's been a lot of questions coming up lately. I think it's like the winter, what we do in the winter. I used to call it my winter sport, tanning sheepskins at home in my bathtub. So I wanted to show you one that I tanned at least 2 years ago. It might be 3 years now. And this is a nice Landic skin that I tanned at home. And so there's been questions about like, should I brush it out? Should I not brush it out? So this one, the reason why I've had it this long and I haven't sold it or made it into something is because I started to brush it out and then I only got about halfway. So as you can see, this is like the natural, this is what you'll get if you do not comb out your Icelandic. This is a lamb skin, a large lamb. So it's really beautiful, but this one in particular has, I can see little bits of hay, like little tiny bits of VM in it. So when I do these at home and they have little bits of VM, I do comb them out just to get the VM out. So when I have really, really nice, clean pelts, I do not comb them out because I think they're super gorgeous just naturally the way they are. But because this one is a little VM-y, it has been combed out. I've started it here. It's a spotted lamb, so this is more at the brown and the white. So to comb or not to comb, I let my fleece determine that. I think they're both lovely. As far as like customer preference, it's sort of a half and half preference. So half the people seem to really love it combed out and half the people seem to love it just the natural Icelandic, locks. But there's that. So then the other questions are coming in about the actual tanning process itself and the skin side, okay? So this one hasn't been totally finished, and by finished I mean I haven't sanded this, okay? So this is, I've gone through all the steps in the tutorial. I put a link to that tutorial here up in the post. And so I've fleshed it, I have washed it, I have tanned it, I have stretched it, and then I do cut my edges off. So around the edges here, let me see if you can. So around the edges, I do cut my edges off because when I tan and flesh, I don't concentrate too much on the edges. So they do tend to have some membrane on them still, or they can be a little too thick or not clean or whatever. So I do always intend to cut my edges off. So I did that with this. But I haven't sanded it. Now, the only reason I would sand this is if I were going to leave it and sell it just as is. So as a beautiful sheepskin, just as is, I would sand it down. Now, if I was going to make it into a pillow, there's no point. No one's going to see it. So the sanding is purely aesthetic with this tanning process. And what it'll do is just sort of even out. Let me see if I can get to focus. So it'll just even out some of this sort of stuff, okay? The color, it'll even out. The texture, it'll even out. So I think it's a nice way to finish your sheepskins if you're going to sell it just as is, as a sheepskin that someone's going to be able to see and touch this part. Now, I've told all of you a number of times who've been interested in tanning your own sheepskins that the magic, the secret is in the stretching. Absolutely, it is in the stretching, especially like that last day. So the first day, not really a big deal, but as the tanning solution sinks in and the skin starts to dry, you have to stretch it very strategically. So like I said, this skin is at least 2 years old. I tanned it at least 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, and it is freaking soft, okay? So this all comes from how much you stretch it as it dries. Okay, there's no crunchiness. It is just a beautiful, wonderful, soft skin after 2 years still, okay? And it's not greasy, it's not oily. I haven't oiled it. Someone was asking me about using neat's foot oil. Absolutely do not put neat's foot oil on this. Neat's foot oil, in my experience, I have extensive experience with taking care of leather because I grew up riding and training horses, that neat's foot oil can leave your leather predisposed to molding. So especially if you're in a humid climate, or you know, it's not drying or something, it could mold this and rot it. So no neat's foot oil. If you have to oil this for some reason, I would recommend a mink oil or another oil that has kind of natural water repellent properties to it. But as you can see, this is beautiful and soft, and there's no need to oil it even after 2 years. Now I've seen sheepskins, I don't know how they were tanned, but that are like a decades old, and they start to get dried out. Most of them, I have noticed that if you just work them a little bit like this, they soften right up again. There's been questions about how to wash these once they are all tanned and they've gotten dirty or whatever. So first of all, don't put them in places like your front door that they're going to get filthy, unless you don't mind them being dirty. My next recommendation is to bang them, brush them, fluff them first, just to get regular kind of dirt out of them. If they are really filthy, you can see if a dry cleaner will do them. That would be my kind of hardcore recommendation. But if you are just going to wash this no matter what, spot clean, definitely can spot clean with water. You don't want to get water through to the skin side. If that happens, you're going to have to reapply the tanning solution. So what I would recommend is trying a test piece first. So maybe let's say you were washing this part here because your kid threw up on it, and it's gotten through to this side and now it's dry and crinkly. So you're going to wet it down with a sponge, okay, not sopping wet, and then reapply that tanning solution that is in the tutorial, and then stretch it like you would when you were originally tanning it. If you need to wet down the whole thing, like hose it down and the skin gets wet and again it gets hard, then you're going to again want to, lightly wet down the skin side like with a sponge, reapply the tanning solution and stretch it. Be very careful when you stretch it the second time, third time. If you're having to re-tan it, it is more likely to tear. So now that it's been dried out, even if you rehydrate it, it's much more likely to tear. So be much, much more careful when you're stretching it, if you're having to wash it and re-tan it. So this is mine that's been sticking around here for the last couple of years, just because I have not brushed it out all the way. I had started it and then never finished brushing it out because it has, little bits of hay in it. Another question was about what kind of brush. So I use hand carders like you would use to card wool, but you can use those dog brushes and, the metal ones with a bunch of little teeth. So that's just what I use, and it works fine. Sometimes if I have one that's like matted, like most sheepskins will have matting down the back. Like this one has a couple of locks right here, which is probably like kind of between the shoulder blades, that are a little dreadlocky. They're not bad. You can kind of see. I might do some spray and conditioner in there, like just for people, like hair spray conditioner. And that'll help me comb it out a bit. But besides that, they are just gorgeous. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you guys have about sheepskins and sheepskin tanning. Check out my tutorial. There's also a video course where I walk you through in video exactly what I do to tan mine at home, and it's filled with lots of helpful tips. So I hope that you found this little FAQ video helpful for you, and I hope to see you tanning your own sheepskins at home, because it really is a labor of love and so worth it, and much less expensive than sending it off to your local tannery. So that is my 2 cents on that, and I will see you all soon. Happy crafting.